Okay, so I'm going to show you how I put the binding on with this binding tool. I have my binding prepared, so this is 2.5 inches. I actually like it a little bit less to have a narrower binding, but you can do any size you want. That's what's good about this. You just trim off the appropriate amount. So I have my binding and I've folded in the end here so I have a nice clean edge so that when we come back around I can fold the end into the beginning and it will be a nice start. I have little sandpaperish kind of stickies on the bottom of this ruler so that I can hold it still better, and I'm using my extended base plate on my machine. And I've also got a little bit of glue stick. So the glue stick is helpful. You can just put some glue down on the quilt, and I'm careful to get it out in the binding area, but not really in the beyond the quilt, into the quilt too much. So now I lay that down on the edge of the quilt. And here in some of this area, it's not so straight. And I'm actually going to straighten up the edge of the quilt by putting the binding straight. So I don't use too much glue. It's just a little bit so that it works. Now I'm not going to start stitching at the beginning. I'm going to start stitching further in here so that when I come back around, this part is lifted and I will sew down the end and the beginning at the same time. So now I use the binding tool. I put it over the foot, and what it does, once you've got it on there, I always push the foot against the side that's not notched, and I have that on the edge of my binding. So I'm going to come right here and I'm going to pull up my thread, and now I'll hold my ruler down and stitch along the edge of the binding. And I'm going to go all the way around the quilt. Now here when I get to the corner, I'm going to sew to within 1/4 inch, and the marks on the ruler this way can show me where 1/4 inch is right there. I'm looking up this way and I can see the marks here that they're in line with 1/4 inch. I'm going to take the ruler off now, and I'm just going to pull the machine off to the side and adjust my corner. So what I do to adjust my corner is you pull the binding, or the binding over the stitching. You pull it over the stitching, and then I finger press, and I have this 45-degree angle. Once I've got that, I fold the binding, I keep saying the wrong word, fold the binding so that this top fold is even with this edge, and then it will go that way and wrap that corner nicely. So I want a little bit of glue underneath there. Just to hold it for me. And I'm going to keep going around the entire quilt, and I'm going to do the exact same thing at every corner. So now I'm going to get my tool back on here, and I'm going to walk myself over. Maybe it's better if I get to the right place first. So I'm going to sew. So I'm ready to go up that edge. And again, I'm going to sew against the unnotched edge, and that's the edge I have on the edge of the binding. And I will continue to move that up the edge. Now when I can't go any further, I'm going to roll my quilt or unroll my quilt, whichever it is, on the right side or the left side. Now I can't go any further. I'm just going to leave my needle in. Look over there at the needle. So I'm going to roll the quilt forward carefully, making sure that I don't damage anything because the needle is down in the fabric. So my needle will be a 1/4 inch away from the edge. I'll take off my ruler, and now I'm going to get that out of the way. And then I take my binding and I go the opposite direction over the stitching. So I pull it over the stitching this way. So I have a nice 45-degree angle, and then I put it back this way so I have a straight fold that is even with the edge of the quilt here and here, and then that's ready to go. I'm going to get my hopping foot back on there. Now you can see here, this is where I started, and this is going to come to here. All right, so now we're going to join these ends here, and I want them to be cut in the same direction. So I'm going to open this up, and I'm going to cut it the same way here. I'm going to leave a little extra. It's going to tuck inside there so it'll look nice. And I'm going to put a little bit of glue on the inside of the start. So this is the point that I started at, and I put the glue down. I'm going to glue it all where I want it to be. And then the end is going to come around and lay down nicely on the end. And then this will fold back over. It's important that that fold be right. So I'm going to fiddle with it till I'm happy. And this will come around, and that's glued right there. And I'm going to sew through all the layers here so that we have a good finishing join. And then I'm going to take it off the frame and trim it up and wrap it around and bind to the other side.